Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, all protocols observed. I am proud to bring the warm greetings of Yahweh to SIDS 4. In particular, I wish to thank the host country, the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda for their warm hospitality. Mr. President, before I proceed, I would like to offer our condolences to the government and people of Papua New Guinea for the recent landslide that resulted in the loss of lives and damage to the country. Our prayers are with you. Mr. President, there was a time at the UN where, as small island developing states, we were questioned, misunderstood, or unacknowledged by our partners and the international system. And that time is done for the pages of political history. As small island nations, we will no longer be sidelined. Our island peoples and our island leaders have made our voice known, loud and clear. And on sustainable oceans and fisheries, as SIDS and large ocean state nations, we have joined together to help rewrite the fate of global oceans. For the Marshall Islands and many small island developing states, human rights cannot be a distant ideal. The basic dignity and core social development, the fundamental freedoms for which all must be able to enjoy, remain out of reach for some. We know from our own history and experience that larger politics cannot be allowed to drown out the voices of the most vulnerable. That is why the Marshall Islands has declared our candidacy for the UN Human Rights Council elections later this year. Mr. President, we know that some have been listening. Large multinational banks are prepared to spend $400 billion on SIDS over the next decade. But what will change on our shores in 10 years? We may realize a flood of consultants and reports to match the rising seas. But it is vital that there be a major step change, and indeed much of our national future rests upon this. We know what is needed, and we know the hard task at home to build a national and government that will meet these challenges to ensure we not just survive, but thrive. We can point to the new UN multi-country office in Micronesia as a strong example of how management reforms and increased agency presence can play a vital role in tackling the SDGs with island-tailored strategies. It is an urgent priority to boost our data capacity, including inline ministries. But across all key sectors, it is well past time that our development partners and the UN system sharply upscale efforts to adjust your large systems to small island state structures and scales. Until that happens as a needed step change, our aspirations will remain out of reach. It is what AOSIS has been telling you for decades, and we are now at the breaking point. Mr. President, as small island developing states, we cannot afford continued inaction on climate and to ignore what the scientists are telling us with ever-growing despair and frustration. At the UNFCCC COP28, we collectively made a commitment that we would transition away from fossil fuels. And yet, we are watching countries, even those that celebrated the deal in Dubai, continue to expand the exploration and use of fossil fuels. Promises of $100 billion per year and to double adaptation finance have gone unmet. The result is devastating loss and damage. In just the first week of office, our government had to approve $1.8 million, a significant hit to our small economy, to help our people facing severe droughts and inundation, a direct result of the climate crisis. In turn, we have less money for health, for education, and for development. This year, we have the potential to transform our approach to climate finance, and we need to. The costs of the climate crisis are about to rise exponentially, and a half-hearted approach and unmet promises won't work. We need to see a new finance goal that drastically increases the amount of finance available to SIDS, particularly for adaptation and loss and damage. To give a sense of the scale of challenge, our National Adaptation Plan says that to protect only 2 major population centers will cost $9 billion. $9 billion will cover the hard infrastructure protection. It won't cover the other things to adapt, like strengthening health or education systems or preserving our local cultures. And it won't be enough to address the implications of populations being forced to leave their homes as sea levels rise and the impacts make life in some parts of our country untenable. We also need to treat the church search for finance with the gravity it deserves. Again, SIDS have led the charge. In the Pacific, we have come together with our allies to develop a proposal for a levy on maritime shipping to ensure this industry finally takes responsibility for the climate pollution. This levy would speed the transformation to a greener industry, while also providing billions of dollars to ensure that transition is equitable for the most impacted. This is a proposal led by some of the most vulnerable countries whose economies are heavily reliant on shipping. We urgently need to reduce emissions and fund climate action within and beyond the shipping sector. This levy should be a no-brainer. We must also reform the international financial system. My fellow leader, Barbados Prime Minister Modley, has led the charge with the Bridgetown Agenda. Let's turn the discussions on this into reality. The money exists, but it's not being spent wisely. In 2022, subsidies for fossil fuel consumption topped $1 trillion. Imagine the impact that money could have if it went to adaptation or renewable energy or to the world's most needy. The cost will only rise and will be paid in more and more human lives if we fail to deal with the root cause, that is fossil fuels. That is why we are proud to announce today that we are joining the initiative for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. This treaty is a vital step to halting the expansion of fossil fuels and ensuring that there is an equitable, urgent transition to renewables. My country has stood strong through a challenging history, including a legacy of nuclear testing that continues to affect our population to this day. The world has recognized, though not fully addressed, the peril of nuclear weapons. We must treat the root of the climate crisis, fossil fuels, with similar gravity. We cannot pretend that the continued development of fossil fuels is not a danger to us all. Dubai set us on the course for the transition away from fossil fuels. We won't stay within the 1.5-degree temperature limit without it. We need every country, but particularly the G20, which makes up 80% of global emissions, to deliver on that commitment. And we need them to say how they will do so in updated NTCs next year. The climate crisis puts the human rights of all countries and people at risk, but SIDS are being hit hardest and fastest. We must stay united in our commitment to ambition and to justice and safety for our people and future generations. Thank you.